Zipper rolls out to the right, pitches off to Taylor, and Taylor's to the 20, down to the 15, down to the 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Billy Taylor scored a touchdown from 21 yards out. The crowd goes berserk. It was November 22nd, 1969. That they came to Barry, Michigan, all dressed in maize and blue. The words were said, the prayers were read, and everybody cried. But when they closed the coffin, there was someone else inside. Oh, they came to Barry, Michigan, but Michigan wasn't dead. And when the game was over, it was someone else instead. 11 Michigan Wolverines put on the gloves of gray, and as the organ played the victors, they laid Woody Hayes away. Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to the Visitors Edition of the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. I don't care if you're a young fan or someone like me with wear on the tread. Games like this weekend in Indianapolis don't happen every year. Sure, it's been 2 years in a row for us, but how long did it take us to get here? I guess what I'm trying to say is this. I'm getting older, and I have seen so many great Michigan seasons in my lifetime. But I've also experienced the rough years since Lloyd Carr left. It's made me appreciate the last 2 years in a different kind of way. I try to savor them because you can't take it for granted. These are the good times, the return to glory. Whatever your age as a Michigan fan, take a minute this Saturday to breathe and consider what it took to get here. I'm not talking about this season, but the journey since the Lloyd Carr days. It's been a roller coaster ride of emotions, punctuated by much disappointment. These are the good times. So let's enjoy the ride. Life is short. This is sweet. As Michigan fans, we fail to sometimes appreciate our history of success and dwell on the recent down times. If you're a Purdue fan, it's even tougher. The Boilermakers have had spurts of success in their history and some really great quarterbacks and offenses through the years. They are thankful just to have a good season every so often. This has been a good season for them. So let's give them their due. If they would have wrangled one first down against Penn State in the closing minutes of their first game, they would have won. If they could have avoided a few stupid penalties a few weeks later against Syracuse, they would have won that game too. This is a team that should be 10-2. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. This is not a rubber stamp game for Michigan. Purdue is capable of playing with anyone. We have to be all business this Saturday and ready to fight. They will be, I guarantee you of that. Let's hear what Coach Jeff Brom thinks of this Michigan team he's facing on Saturday.
Of course, we have our hands full. Michigan's played lights out this week. Very well coached, tremendous defense. I think their front four plus basically their front seven will be the most talented team we played to date. They're big, they're stout, they rotate a lot of guys in, good in the secondary. Just statistically, one of the best defenses in the country. And on offense, the running game, the tight ends, the O-line, and then now a really athletic, dynamic quarterback who can make plays outside the pocket, extend plays, throw the football vertically. Right now they're the complete package. So we just got to, get to work and practice well and, go out there and cut it loose come game night.
Coach says he's telling his team, enjoy the moment.
Well, that's the exciting thing is we put ourselves in a position for this opportunity to represent the Big Ten West, to play in a championship game, to represent this university and this state, and go play, at Lucas Oil for a Big Ten championship. So, we want to, enjoy the moment that we're in right now, but at the same time, once we get back to practice, we got to get back to practicing and competing and getting better. And the only way you're going to have a chance is if you prepare the proper way. And as the week goes on, start to gain confidence and believe that you can achieve anything. And then, of course, game day, we'll just have to go out there and cut it loose and leave it all on the field and play as hard as we can.
Brom added that dealing with Michigan is a challenge on both sides of the ball.
Well, I think both these running backs are two of the best in the country, and they've proven that week in and week out. They've got a great offensive line. They play a bunch of tight ends. They get in running sets, and then you throw in an athletic quarterback that can pull it at any point and run. Now you got to account for him. So that creates a lot of problems, and it will be very challenging for us. So, we have to figure out a way to be physical at the point of attack, put enough guys in the box to be able to stop the run, but yet you can't abandon covering the pass, because they took advantage of that this past game against Ohio State and hit a lot of big plays. That's why they were able to score a lot of points. They had big plays in the passing game. They had big plays in the running game. And we have to eliminate the big plays. I think if you watch Michigan's defense, and we watched a lot this morning, there's not many big plays there. So they do a great job of not allowing the big play and making you earn it and work all the way down the field. And so that's going to be a challenge for us.
My guest today says Purdue knows they are the underdog, but they have nothing to lose. They will give us all they have on Saturday, so we better be ready. Up next on our Visitors Edition of the show is Purdue radio play-by-play voice Tim Newton. So stay with us. With us on the Visitors Edition of our show as we get ready for that Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis on Saturday night is the radio play-by-play voice of the Boilermakers, Tim Newton. Tim, great to have you back with us.
Mike, thanks for having me today.
Well, Tim, this Purdue team is led by a quarterback I really enjoy watching, Aiden O'Connell, and the performance he turned in against Indiana Saturday was really outstanding, especially when you consider what's happening in his life off the field. It has been a really difficult last week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. For those who may not have heard, Aiden lost his older brother in an accident last week, and that just happened a few days before the Boilermakers played Indiana in what turned out to be a game to win the Big Ten West. And Aiden was there with his team and led his team to a win. His family was there with him, and now he's for the last few days gone to be with his family up in the Chicago area, but he is expected to play on Saturday. He's an unbelievable story. Came to Purdue as a walk-on, was really the 8th string quarterback when he came here. Came here because he wanted to observe a Big Ten program up close and personal. He wanted to get into college coaching. He had a chance to play at a lower level, but thought he could play, or at least have a chance to compete in the Big Ten. And through some perseverance and persistence, he just hung with it and eventually worked his way up the chart. And his talent has brought him to the field and brought him to an all Big Ten level. And he's tremendous off the field. He's involved with a lot of organizations, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. He's with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He's done mission trips before. I mean, he's everything you could want in a college athlete. And he got married in the off season to a former Purdue women's volleyball player. So he's done a little bit of everything during his time in West Lafayette. And I guess we're at the point really that nothing that he does surprises us anymore.
Well, he is the straw that stirs the drink for that offense. He makes it go. Very exciting to watch and talk about just how much he does mean to that offense.
Well, he's got the arm strength. He can make all the throws. So that's the first thing. But the other thing is he's in his 6th year, and he got here the same year that Jeff Brom came. So, probably he's the one guy on campus who, as well as the coaching staff, that knows the offense as well as anybody. So there's really nothing that a defense can throw out there that's probably going to catch him off guard. He knows where everybody's supposed to be on every play, and he's got a really calm demeanor. That's the other thing. He's led some fourth quarter comebacks. He really doesn't rattle very easily. He's tough. He's taken some big hits this year, and he had a rib injury in the game against Syracuse earlier this year that actually knocked him out of the game. But he's played hurt throughout his career, and he's just a guy that people rally around. I think they're the old saying is way back when, and with Sarah Lee, everybody doesn't like something, but nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee. I think you can insert Aiden O'Connell here. I mean, nobody doesn't like Aiden O'Connell. He's the kind of guy that you root for. He's kind of the underdog story. And he's, now making his way to one of the biggest stages in college football. And I'm happy for him, even though it's certainly a very sad time for the family. You look at what he's been able to accomplish since he's been here, and it's really amazing.
Well, in Big Ten country, we are well aware that folks take their shots at that West Division. But this Purdue team, I mean, I saw the opener against Penn State, and one first down at the end, that was a W. And Syracuse, that should have been a win. So, in reality, when you look at the overall work of this team this season, a few breaks, they could easily be 10-2 coming into this game.
Yeah, they could. And that's an accurate statement. But I think you also have to be realistic and look and say, okay, that they pulled out a last-second win against Florida Atlantic, which was when Aiden was injured. They had to go down to the wire to beat Maryland at the finish. They had to go down to the wire to beat Minnesota. So while they could have been 10-2, they also could have been probably at or below 500. So, as the great American philosopher Bill Parcells once says, you are what your record says you are. And so I think 8-4 is a pretty fair representation of what this program is and where it's been. The offense has been fairly consistent. They've got a better running game now with Devin Mockabee having emerged in the second half of the season. The defense has had its moment. It's really up and down, and you never know. It seems like from one week to the next, is this going to be a good defensive week or a bad defensive week? And they're going to need a great defensive week to have a chance on Saturday against Michigan. Well,
talking about that Purdue offense again for just a minute, when I think of Purdue, I think of a passing attack. But as you said, in the last few weeks, the running game has been closing out games for them. And one of the reasons has been the offensive line. They've really been playing well, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. It's an offensive line that started the season with 8 guys, and then 2 of the guys got hurt. One had to retire from football completely because of a back injury, and then we had another offensive lineman tear his knee up in I think it was the Minnesota game. So they basically had 6 guys that have gone the distance. And the nice thing about those 6 guys is they've been interchangeable. Now, having said that, they lost one of those guys in the Northwestern game, Gus Hartwig, the starting center. So they actually did bring in a new center in that game and last week in the bucket game named Josh Kaltenberger, who's done a pretty good job in the 2 weeks he's been in. But, they've done a good job all season pass protecting for Aiden and keeping him pretty clean in the pocket. On the flip side, the run game has gotten better, and I do think that it's a combination of better line blocking, but also that Devin Mockabee has really taken hold of that running back spot and seems to be able to make something out of nothing.
Well, getting back to that passing game for just a minute, when Charlie Jones left Iowa in the spring, he didn't know many people in West Lafayette, but he knew one, Aiden O'Connell. Talk about their special relationship and how it's translated into a great year on the field.
Yeah, these 2 guys know each other back from elementary school. I think they met each other or with each other in 3rd grade and played on the same youth football team. In fact, there's some neat footage, home video footage of Aiden throwing long passes to Charlie when they were about 8 or 9 years old. And when it came time, Charlie Jones went to the University of Buffalo, didn't have a lot of scholarship offers coming out of high school because he'd gotten hurt in high school, and a lot of recruiters had gone away from him. He decided after playing at Buffalo for a while, he wanted to try to go to a bigger stage. But again, no Division I offers. So he had to walk on to Iowa. And then after playing for the Hawkeyes and being the Big Ten kick returner of the year last year, he decided he wanted to show his wares at wide receiver. Didn't feel like he'd have a sufficient opportunity to do that in the Iowa offense. So he looked around and said, well, my buddy's still at Purdue, and I know they throw the football around. And on the flip side, Aiden went to Jeff Brom and said, hey, you ought to take a look at this guy. I know he's been a great kick returner, but I think he could really help us in the passing game. So it was really a sales job by Aiden to Jeff Brom that helped get Charlie Jones here, and he's been a revelation from game one. He comes into Saturday's game 3 catches away from 100 for the season, and this is a guy last year that caught 21 passes all season. And he's really been one of the big stories in college football, along with Aiden this season.
Well, it's been fun watching this year, and it will be again Saturday night. You mentioned how good this defense has been improved this year. I think they're giving up 23 points per game, and it really, when you watch Purdue, it starts in the trenches. That D-line is good, and it has some depth too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and certainly that is the strength of this defensive unit. Purdue has gone as many as 12 or 13 deep in a game at the defensive line spot, where they're 3 deep at every position, and they don't mind rotating all 3 of those lines in and out. And so instead of now playing 60 or 70 snaps a game, these guys are playing 20, 30, maybe at maximum 35 a game, so they can really empty the tank. And you'll see during the game when they pat their helmet, that means they're ready to come out, and they've done a good job keeping guys fresh. And I think if you look at their fourth quarters here, in the last half of the season, I believe the stat is something like they've given up an average of 4 points a game over the last 8 or 9 games of the year in the fourth quarter, and that's partly because the defense and the defensive line has been so fresh. They don't have a George Karlaftis up front like they had last year, first-round draft pick now with the Kansas City Chiefs, but they've got some guys that have really come on. Lawrence Johnson has been pretty solid in the middle. Branson Dean has had a good season, although I don't expect him to play Saturday because of injury, but they've got a couple of guys on the edge now in Kadron Jenkins and Nick Carraway that I think we're seeing more and more being able to rush the passer. So Jack Sullivan was an honorable mention All Big Ten selection earlier this week. It's a deep defensive line, and it's been able to cover up a little bit and get some pressure on quarterbacks to take some of the pressure off the secondary. Secondary is a little bit up and down and a little bit thin. They've had some injury problems back there. The same thing at the linebacker spot, but there's no question the strength of this defense is up front.
Well, Tim, you mentioned a minute or two ago that Coach Parcells said you are what your record is, and this team is 8-4. But the other thing with that is they are playing their best football right now, aren't they?
They are. It's been kind of a funny season. It was a roller coaster year where they lost 2 of the first 3 games, and in both of those games, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, Purdue led in the final minute against Penn State and against Syracuse. Then they go on a 4-game winning streak. And then they play probably their 2 worst games of the season back-to-back against Wisconsin and Iowa. And now they've finished on a 3-game winning streak, and they are playing pretty well. And the thing is, Purdue has played its best football this year away from home. If you go back to last season, the Boilermakers have won 7 of their last 9 Big Ten road games. And that, hopefully that bodes well for this week playing away from Ross-Ade Stadium. But yeah, they're coming in on certainly a high note, and there's a lot of excitement playing in their first Big Ten championship game an hour away from campus. So we'll see. I know we'll see a lot of maize and blue in the stands, but I think we'll see a lot of black and gold there too.
Well, Tim, when Jeff Brom was hired, I think just about everyone that I know in the Big Ten thought he was a great hire for Purdue. And yeah, there have been ups and there have been downs, just like in any program. This week, definitely an up. But what are your overall thoughts on the program he is building there?
Well, and I think you've hit the key word, and that is program. You can have success every once in a while in a one-off season, but if you're really going to have sustained success, you've got to build a program from top to bottom. And I think they've done that here. They've improved the depth on this football team. Jeff, when he came in 2017, inherited a program that had won a total of 9 games in 4 seasons under Darrell Hazel. And the interest in the program was at an all-time low. Attendance was terrible. Basically, they were an afterthought here on campus. And Jeff was able to come in from year one. His first year, he got Purdue back to a bowl game. They won the bowl game on a last-second play against Arizona, and that ramped up the excitement even more. And then they had a little bit of a dip. In 2019, they had a huge amount of injuries and went 4-8 that year. And then in the COVID year, Purdue won its first 2, but then lost its last 4, and then had the rest of the season postponed because of COVID. So I think last year was really kind of the make or break year for getting the program back on the right track, and Purdue bounced back, finished second in the Big Ten West last year, won 9 games, won a thrilling overtime bowl game against Tennessee down in Nashville, and now they've been able to maintain that momentum here in year 6 with Jeff. get back now for the first time, get to the Big Ten championship game, but get back to another bowl. So, for a program like Michigan, that you take bowl games for granted, but that's not the case here at Purdue. And this will be 4 times now in 6 years that Purdue has gone bowling under Jeff Brom. So he has built the program back onto a solid foundation, and now it's time to take, they hope, that next step and to get to where you can compete with the Michigans and Ohio States and Penn States of the Big Ten on a yearly basis.
Well, Tim, this Saturday is a great day for both schools, a chance to play for the Big Ten title in Indy with a huge crowd. And until last year, Michigan had never made it to this game, and this year it's a first for Purdue. This is a moment to savor and enjoy for Purdue football and their fan base, isn't it?
It is. And, you would love to win the game from Purdue's perspective, but whether you win or lose it, the fact that you're there is the next step. It's the next step in the evolution of this program. And you're going to have most of the nation watching on Saturday night, and it's a great attention for the state of Indiana and for the program here at Purdue. And I hope they're able to, the players are able to savor the moment. I know we will on the broadcast team. We're going to enjoy it. We've done, this is the 3rd time we've done a game at Lucas Oil Stadium. We played Notre Dame there a few years ago. And then Jeff Brom's first game at Purdue was against Louisville in Lucas Oil. And it was when Lamar Jackson was quarterbacking the Cardinals. And of course, that's Jeff's alma mater, and Purdue actually led that game in the 4th quarter before Louisville came back and won it. So looking forward to playing at Lucas Oil. It should be a great atmosphere. I know it's going to be loud. I believe it's going to be another sellout, and it should be a great night for college football.
No, I agree with that. Final question before we let you get away, Tim. Win on Saturday for Purdue, of course, won't get them in the playoffs, but as you just mentioned, it will get them another very good bowl appearance. But if they can beat Michigan on this stage with all of those eyeballs, especially high school recruits watching, it could boost Coach Brom and his program's future on a myriad of levels, couldn't it?
It can, and you mentioned the high school, and certainly that's big, but in the world of college football these days, the portal is just as big, if not bigger. And if you look at what Purdue's been able to do, and Charlie Jones comes to Purdue through the portal, and you've got walk-ons at the running back and walk-on at quarterback. And I think people are going to look at Purdue as a chance. Hey, I've got a chance to go there, and I'm not going to be judged on how many stars are in front of my name. I'm going to be judged on my performance on the field. And I think the fact that Purdue has put Rondale Moore in the NFL in the last couple of years, and David Bell and George Karlaftis and players like that, people are starting to notice that you can have success, get to the next level, and play here, and especially players from the state of Indiana. We've got a lot of players from Indianapolis who've gone elsewhere in the past decade, and we're trying to draw a little bit more of a fence, or build a little bit more of a fence around the city, and try to make sure the best players in Indianapolis are staying here and playing at Purdue and in other parts of the state too. But it is an enormous opportunity to make a statement and to show the world what Purdue football can be and what players can achieve when they come here and play for the Boilermakers.
Well, here it is on our Visitors Edition of the show this week has been the radio play-by-play voice of the Boilermakers, Tim Newton. Tim, enjoy the moment and everything that goes with it on Saturday night in Indy, and we thank you for taking the time to join us and look forward to that next visit.
Mike, thanks for having me. It should be a fun night on Saturday night.
On Quick Hits today, no injury updates. By now, you knew there wouldn't be. We're in the same situation as we were last week. The guys that can play will. If we learned anything last week, it's this. We have depth, and the staff has confidence in the guys who we have available. Again, enjoy the day. I think Purdue will come to play on Saturday. So will we. I think we'll prevail, but I'm not going to say it will be easy. The Boilers have talent on both sides of the ball. Winning a Big Ten championship, after all, shouldn't be easy, and I don't think it will be this Saturday. Whatever happens, though, I think we're going to be in the playoffs. So, I am taking next week off, not by choice, though. I thought we would be in this situation when the season started, but I guess my wife wasn't paying attention. She booked a vacation for next week, so after I leave Indy on Saturday, off I go on vacation. So our next show will be the week of December 13th. That will give us plenty of time to preview who we are up against in the playoffs. So enjoy Saturday. We've waited a long time for this kind of success. We need to take it all in and realize this doesn't happen every year. These are the good times for Michigan football. That does it for now. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. Think victory. Let's beat Purdue and claim another outright Big Ten championship. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue.
Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!